This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports, with your distinguished hosts, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
All right, Night Nation, welcome back. We are the Sons of UCF. This is the 177th edition of said show. My name is Adam, and as always, my friend and yours, UCF's number one fan, Mr. UCF Mike is with us again. Mike, greetings, my friend. How are you?
Doing great, man. Number one fan again, 2 weeks in a row. Nobody's knocking me off that perch.
Nope.
At least for another week. So
yeah, that's yours.
Feels good.
Your spot until you lose it, my friend, and you should hang on to that. And you all should listen into this episode. Spring game recap extraordinaire, extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. We've got news, we've got notes, we've got thoughts, we've got ideas, we've got jokes, we've got it all, I'm sure. So make sure you stick around for that. And you don't want to miss that. Basketball is imploding in front of us. We'll chat through that. We have Cal of the Week, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Mike, but before we get to anything, we talked about this on the live show, so it's still a little premature, but we want to announce and let everybody know that the Sons of UCF now has a partnership with Gordon and Partners. It is a law firm that is specializes in injury law and other types of litigation, and one of the firm's lawyers, Michael Hoffman, is a diehard UCF fan, a UCF alum, Mike. So we'll start recording some more stuff. You'll hear more about the partnership, but we announced it on the live show. Wanted to share it off the top here. Super excited to be working with the good folks over at Gordon and Partners. Really excited to be working with another UCF alum and a UCF fan. That's the coolest thing about this stuff is getting a chance to interact with other UCF folks, and Mike Hoffman's a great dude, Mike. So certainly excited to be involved with Gordon and Partners.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the guy Hoffman, he's a diehard fan. Like you said, he's a fan of the show. He's followed us from the beginning. So it's good to deal with guys like that, guys that care about the show, not just, a sponsor that puts their name on it and doesn't really have any connection to UCF. So I'm glad that we're partners with this guy. I can't imagine the heights he's going to take this show to and all the things we're going to be able to do because of the partnership now.
Jesus.
I'm very excited.
It's a lot of pressure. What did you just do to us? My goodness, you just took us to great heights. Well, if you want to help us get to great heights, I guess, since Mike brought it up, make sure you're following us on social media stuff, YouTube channel. We're certainly trying to grow that and add some more videos, some more exclusive content to the channel. So get to the YouTube channel at Sons of UCF. Make sure you subscribe. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Sons of UCF, everywhere that you find all that stuff. And if you're listening to the pod, you like the pod, make sure you subscribe so it shows up in your feed every single time. Click the play button, and we will take care of the rest. Mike, let's go way back to Saturday. The spring game was had, Mike. It's a tradition unlike any other. 5 to 7 to 10,000 crazy UCF fans, get into the blazing hot sun at noon on a Saturday before Easter, and we watch our team play a glorified practice, and I have no idea who anybody is because there's no numbers on the jerseys, Mike, but it was a fun time nonetheless, and the spring game has ended. I know you got a chance to look at a bunch of the stats. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of the videos and pictures on social media and whatnot, post-game interviews, all that stuff. What is your biggest couple of takeaways after what you've digested from the spring game?
Well, we have two quarterbacks that we feel like we can win with, right? I think people are pretty pleased with what they saw at the quarterback position, which was the biggest question. The offense seemed to be rolling with both guys. The defense maybe a little left to be desired, but overall a good performance. It gave the fans what they wanted. There was buzz before the game, obviously with the QR codes, which if you were listening to this show last week, you already knew that was going to happen because, I dropped that on you guys. You're welcome. But overall, it seemed to be a positive day for the program. Gus seemed happy afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good things took place, Mike. There was a ton of offense. A lot of these stats are unofficial. UCF's not releasing like official box score stats. A lot of this comes via some reporting. I know Jason Beatty had a lot of this information in his column this week in the Sentinel. 774 yards of total offense. The gold team, if you had the gold team in Vegas, you were the big winner. The gold team took the actual game final score 38-14. So did you bet gold, Mike, black? Where were you at on the line on this one?
It's funny. It was called the gold team, but they were actually wearing white.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. Yeah.
I guess they stick with the black and gold. They didn't name the team the Canaveral Blue Team, so that's a good sign.
Oh boy!
I did not place money. I did not place money on the game. So 38 points is a lot. You said 700 total yards of offense, and I believe there was about 100 plays run in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 7 yards per play.
Yep.
Offensively, you can't ask for more than that.
The logistics were what we thought they were: 12-minute quarters, running clock in the second half. The quarterbacks were not live, so you could not hit the quarterback. So there were 14 sacks unofficially counted, Mike, but these were sacks where if you kind of ran past the quarterback and touched his arm, they counted as a sack. So some of those are probably a tad misleading, and the quarterback probably could have escaped and gotten out of some trouble on that one. But 14 sacks unofficially. Landon Woodson had 3 of those sacks, Mike. But the quarterbacks were not live, so they could not be hit. There were switching of guys from side to side, so some guys played on both sides of the ball. So again, 38-14 is probably misleading, and there was a bunch of guys who I think played on both teams, quote unquote. There was a large rack of jerseys that was on the sidelines, and guys were changing jerseys in and out. But I mean, I think overall, what you want to see in the spring game is efficiency. You want to see him run the offense. You want to see, obviously nobody get hurt, and there weren't any serious injuries. A couple of guys got dinged up and laid on the field for a little bit, but popped back up. But overall, I think from Gus's perspective, I don't even know how much he cares about the stats per se. We do, because what else are we going to talk about? But I think to your point, Gus was pretty pleased afterwards, just that execution. Always has those areas to clean up, but I think he was overall pleased with execution.
Right, and I think he saw most of what he needs to see throughout the spring with all the practices and the scrimmages. This game is more for the fans. It's more for get the fan base involved, get them out there on a Saturday, get to meet the players, all that stuff. As long as we didn't come away with any major injuries, which it doesn't sound like we did, it's a positive day.
Some guys got held out. Isaiah Bowser did not play. That was by design. Quadric Bullard was out with an injury. I saw Terrence Lewis, the heralded 5-star transfer linebacker. He did not play. He was on the sideline as well. So obviously Gus and the medical staff being smart, holding some guys out, Mike. But the guys who did play, let's start with quarterbacks. I mean, that's where everyone wants to talk. Let's start there again. Unofficial stats from a lot of these again from Jason Beatty. He has Mikey Keene at 21 of 28, 282 yards, 3 touchdowns, including a 70-yard pass to Jalen Robinson, who looked great, by the way, and 1 terrible interception at the goal line. That's all over social media. Jaden Francois picked it off in the end zone and probably could have ran it back. Mikey actually chased him down and pushed him out of bounds, which I could really do without. I don't need Mikey getting injured, chasing down an interception in the spring game. And then John Rice Plumlee, who, again, we all joked and talked about what would he do in the passing game, Mike. 11 of 15, 189 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a 57-yarder to newcomer Kobe Hudson. No turnovers from JRP. He hit a couple of runs, one really kind of electric run where he got out of the pocket and got off the sideline a little bit, Mike. So those are your particulars. We said going into this, we did not think Gus was going to name a starting quarterback after the game. Spoiler alert, he did not do so. What do these numbers tell you? How does this help you at all as you do your analysis in terms of what you think the starting quarterback position will look like come fall camp?
Well, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I need a guy that is just going to take care of the football and move the chains. It seems like they both moved the ball pretty well, and there was just one bad play by Mikey that got picked off in the end zone. You can't have that. But overall, both guys, I think, numbers-wise, looks pretty good, pretty efficient. You were there. You can tell me probably a little bit better of what you think, who looked better on the field, who seemed to have more command of the offense.
Here's how I was trying to figure out the way to describe this to people who maybe didn't see it, or even if you were there. Here's how I would describe it, Mike. Have you ever played, I know you have, by the way, but this is a rhetorical question. Have you ever played pool, played billiards, right? Maybe you play a game of 9-ball, right? After the break, the balls are all scattered. Mikey Keene looked like he just knew what to do. I mean, he was that guy with like 1-ball corner pocket, 2-ball side pocket, 3-ball corner pocket. It was just precise. He looked like he was in control. He looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And, just boom, boom, boom. He was executing. He was making the throws, check down here, check down there, 10-yard here, 5-yard here. He just looked like he was in command, like he was going to run the table. And then all of a sudden, a blip happens. You don't get you don't get the 5 ball in, right? And then Plumlee comes in, and you're like, okay, can this guy even what's he gonna do? And somehow he makes a ridiculous shot, and the 5 ball goes in the corner pocket, and you're like, how did he pull that? Okay, cool. And the 6 ball is all the way across the table, and somehow he gets that one in. And then the 7 ball, just he caroms it off another ball, and it goes in. And before you know it, you're like, wait a minute. This thing's tied up. Like, they both have the same number of balls in the pockets, right? And that's kind of the way I felt about it. Was you looked at Mikey, and I said to my daughter, I was like, dude, he looks like he's in command. Like, he looks like he knows where he's going. 3-step drop, ball's out of his hand, making good reads. He looks comfortable. But then JRP gets in. He gets out of the pocket. He makes plays with his feet. He extends a couple of plays. He finds some guys open. I don't know if they were busted coverages. I don't know if that was if that was by design. But you looked up after a while, and you were like, man, like, it's a lot closer than I thought. And then Mikey makes that big mistake. Plumlee looks a little bit more poised, throughout the game at the end there. And so I walked away heading into this thinking this is really Mikey Keen's, thing, and we'll see what Plumlee can do if he can offer something. And you felt like at times Keen was really doing well and being very productive, but Plumlee just kept making a play, and he kept doing something, and he kept doing something positive. And, it was a chunk play here, a flash play here, and you start to see the possibilities of the offense could be very exciting with Plumlee at the quarterback spot. It was very precise with Mikey Keen, but I think it was exciting with Plumlee. So I don't know how you decide between those two, but in terms of big plays, splash plays, anything can happen. I think Plumlee clearly proved he can do that. And if he can throw the ball like he did, and he had some dudes wide open, by the way, but if he can throw the ball like he did, I think he gives Gus a lot of options. I'd like to go through the checklist, if you will, Mike, later on. We can do the official scoring on it, but that's at least my blind eye test analysis of what I saw.
So that was the biggest question coming into spring. Can Plumlee actually throw the ball, right? And it seems like he can. At least when the guys are wide open, he can. So that's a good thing. Now, if Mikey doesn't throw that one interception, right, and I know that's a big play to take out, how are you judging this thing? Is it a 10-9 round? Judge it like a boxing match. Who won the round? 10-9, 10-8?
Yeah, probably 10-8 because it was such a back-breaking play. It was a terrible throw. I mean, Jaden Francois after said basically they ran that same route on him earlier, and he was waiting on it. I mean, and if you see the play in your head, if Mikey just throws that thing up a little higher, a little towards the back pylon, either it's a great catch by the receiver or it's incomplete and you live to fight another down. He essentially threw to the back shoulder, which was what Francois keyed in on and picked off. But we also saw, to be fair, Plumlee had something very similar in a scrimmage a week prior. So overall, that play and whatever that set seems to be a problem for the quarterbacks to complete. So in that round specifically, I think obviously I go 10-9, maybe 10-8, I guess, because it was such a back-breaking play at that moment in time.
Now, do you think this is going to be a funny question? Do you think Plumlee's happy when Mikey Keen throws that interception? You think he's rooting for a little mistake there?
If we're doing Plumlee translator here, yeah, I think all these guys are, right. Like, I mean, I don't want to put this all in JRP, but I think all these guys, if you have a competition and you see your guy, the other guy do something a little bit, below what you did. I mean, I think all these guys got to say to themselves, okay, like, yeah, it's cool. I won that one. I won that round, to your point. So, I mean, true serum JRP, I'm sure he was kind of like, okay, I can make that throw, or I got to make that throw. And he did something similar. He had a throw to Steven Martin in the back of the end zone, which is a little bit of a different route combo. He was on the other hash, so it was a bit of a further throw. Mikey was a little bit shorter on that one, but he threw a good ball, and the throws he needed to make, he made. He clearly didn't. I mean, again, he only threw the ball 15 times. Keen threw it 28. So that should tell you something about how Gus is thinking about using those two guys potentially. Is, if you've got Johnny Richardson in the backfield, who had 108 rushing yards, by the way, and you've got Plumlee, who's a threat to run, and then you can open up the passing game. You can kind of see where Gus's offense with that skill set could be exciting. I think Mikey was precise, but I think JRP offers an excitement and a bit of an it factor that I'm curious if Gus is going to fall in love with that, because his offense is obviously, he wants to be flashy. He wants to make big plays. Is he going to fall in love with somebody who can, sort of do that, where Mikey was just more methodical, made the throws when he had to, didn't, outside the interception, was moving the ball really well. But JRP's kind of got that. It's like your girl is really good looking, but then a supermodel walks in. You're like, man, that's interesting. And I think that's how Gus is maybe looking at this. Like, boy, this kid can play a little bit, maybe more so than he thought coming in. Now he's seen him play, so maybe we're the ones looking at this like supermodel stuff. But I think Plumlee did not do anything to hurt himself. If anything, I think he elevated himself a ton. And you kind of feel bad for Mikey Keene because he really didn't do anything wrong. It just, everyone was tantalized by a little bit of Plumlee doing what we didn't think he could do. To be fair, it's probably what a lot of quarterbacks do now. We just didn't know he had it in him. So there's probably an overhype factor there, but he certainly showed that he could play the part. And we'll see how Gus, wants to decide this thing as we go down to the wire in the fall camp.
So the quarterbacks were not live. Were there any called quarterback runs, or he just broke that one because there was nobody open and he just took off?
Yeah, I couldn't tell there were any called runs. I mean, Plumlee broke a couple, I think, on his own when the pocket broke down. And if there's any one thing he did a few times, I think especially early in the game, he definitely looked at one read and maybe even glanced at a second and then kind of took off. And so again, is that by design? Is that just him learning the playbook? It didn't appear to be any designed runs, but the one play that sort of broke down, he got out and I want to say scrambled for 15, 20 yards down the sideline. But I don't think it was designed.
All right. And now what about taking the ball? Was he under center? Was he in the shotgun at all times?
Yeah, I think
both of them the same. Or
yeah, I think majority under shotgun. I want to say there was at least one or two maybe where I feel like I saw Keene under center, but majority was the green two claps, shotgun formation. I didn't see a ton of under center, if any.
All right. Well, it was a good day for Plumlee, and it makes you feel good that you have two guys that you can trust that are back there. Going into last season, we had Dylan Gabriel. We didn't know who we had behind him. Now I feel like we got a guy in Keene that's got some experience, played in some big games last year, and is improving. And then you've got this Plumlee wild card now, who just brings a whole different factor with the run game. And he's doing the things that Gus he wants Keene to be able to do some of those things too. He wants him to be able to take off when the play breaks down and get you a first down on 3rd and 8 when there's nobody open. Seems like Plumlee is able to do that more naturally than Keene. But then again, you got the other factor that Keene seems more comfortable with the reads, maybe going through his progressions a little bit better. Maybe that'll open up a couple more big plays. So it's going to be an interesting fall camp between the two of them, and I think it's going to go down to the wire.
Well, so let's do the chart here, Mike. I'm gonna list out a category, and you tell me who you would give the advantage to, right? So here's the the 3rd grade grade book stuff, right? Let's start for this right here between Plumlee and between Keene. Who would you give the edge to in terms of just playbook knowledge, grasping of the playbook, just understanding of the overall offense? Would you give that to Keene or Plumlee?
I think it has to be Keene. He's got the whole year last year and under his belt, so. And you mentioned it. He seemed like he knew exactly where he was going with the ball every time. So I'd have to give Keene the advantage right now.
Throwing the football. So we've got to make a throw. You've got to be able to make all the throws in the field, complete all the throws in the field. Keene and Plumlee, where do you give the advantage?
Well, you're talking about the throwing motion and all that stuff. I mean, maybe it doesn't look great all the time, but Keene seemed to be able to make a lot of the throws last year. I mean, he came up with a couple big ones. A 4th down against East Carolina when the game on the line. He had a couple there and a game-winning drive against the Cows.
You can push, by the way, if you want to push on this. I mean, pushes are allowed.
I haven't seen Plumlee throw much. I mean, I know it happened at the spring game. The spring game was not televised. I didn't get to see it. I saw a couple highlights, and it looked nice. So, I guess I'm going to give a slight edge to Keene,
okay,
but it's not a big advantage.
Running ability.
I don't think that's a question. That's Plumlee.
Okay. Who can make big playability? A play breaks down, 3rd and 7, and the tackle slips, and we got to try to make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. Who do you think can make the big play when the big play is needed?
Yeah, I think that also is Plumlee. So Plumlee, the way you're describing him to me, is what you saw, the electricity and all that stuff, it's kind of like a Jeff Godfrey type, where he could beat you with his feet, and he can throw a long ball too and hit you over the top.
I mean, I think Godfrey had a better arm, and Godfrey had a cannon. I don't know what what Plumlee's top end is from a distance perspective, but I feel like Godfrey had a bit of a a cannon on him. Where I don't know about Plumlee, but I guess I could see the similarities there, where he can kind of shift around the pocket a little bit, make a guy miss, throw a hip juke and maybe throw a guy open. Where Mikey's probably just going to run out, maybe try a little head fake and then hopefully throw the ball away. Where I think Plumlee could probably make something happen on the edge there. So I think it's fair to say he's got the big play or the ability to make something happen if a play breaks down. Leadership.
Again, I mean, Plumlee's been here for 2 months. He seems like he's taken to the team pretty well. Everybody seems to like him. It's hard for me to answer that one too. Keene, really, a lot of guys have built up trust in Keene over the last year and a half. So if you had to make me pick one, I'll pick Keene for today. But that could change very quickly.
Who can protect the football the best? So who's not going to be a turnover machine?
Well, I mean, this goes against what we saw in the spring game. With Keene throwing the only interception. But I think when you factor in that Plumlee's going to be running with the ball a lot more, there's probably more opportunities for him to turn it over. Not just interceptions, but, the ball gets poked out, a fumble, things like that. Maybe trying to do a little bit too much at times, try to force something when it's not there instead of just throwing the ball away, which sometimes is the best option. I'd say probably you're running a little bit more of a risk with Plumlee.
All right, last one because we need an odd number. Decision making.
All right. Decision making. Well, Keene is growing from year one to year two. Last year, he was probably in that mode of, look for the first target, maybe a second target. And you saw him get better as the season went on. And, he did a good job last year with just taking what was given to him. If there's nothing there, run to the sideline, throw it away, live to play another down. I like that about him last year. Now he can improve on that and kind of push the limits a little bit and maybe make a play when something's not there. I don't know enough about Plumlee to know about his decision making. I mean, it seems like he was on point the other night, and he made all the right choices and made some good throws. So I'll give it an even for now.
All right, so then by your official scoring, so UCF Mike has 4 categories going to Mikey Keene, 2 going to Plumlee, and then 1 is a push. So if you're 7, I mean, the way that you're thinking about this now, I mean, you're giving Keene the advantage. I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way, but that's kind of the way I was thinking about this. Is I agree with you. I think playbook is certainly Keene right now, but that's an area that Plumlee could make up ground, right? So that's an area that could get itself evened out by the time camp starts, right? So if Plumlee, and I saw somebody tweet this, and I forget who it is, and I feel bad because it was a really good point. Somebody said something to the effect of, the best thing to happen to UCF football might be that Plumlee's waiver for baseball got denied, because perhaps that means he's been in his playbook more. Perhaps he'll be in his playbook more in the summer. So playbook is an area where Plumlee can make up ground. I agree with you. Keene is the front runner there by far. Throwing is interesting. That's the only one where I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but you could talk me into a push. Because, certainly, Keene doesn't have, I think, the strongest arm we've ever seen. I think he's fairly accurate with the ball. His motion obviously is a little bit elongated, but it hasn't really shown to be too much of a challenge at times. Plumlee looked okay throwing the ball in the spring game, right? He got it to the receivers. He had a good motion. It didn't look like he couldn't make a throw if he had to. But again, how was the coverage? Was it limited there? So throw, I could see push. Run, I agree, is Plumlee. A big play is probably Plumlee as well. Leadership, I think Keene is, got the respect of that team, Mike. But being down on the field, being around Plumlee, you could tell the guys have some respect and have some camaraderie with Plumlee. I think Keene's probably head and shoulders, but again, that's an area where Plumlee can make up ground. Who can protect the ball? I think you're right, just in the sense that if Plumlee is going to be a thrower and a runner, the possibilities of him turning it over are greater than Keene just being a thrower potentially. So I could see that part. And then decision making, I agree. I think that's even. I think both of them are probably, we've seen in snippets, both of them made some bad decisions. There's more tape on Mikey doing that kind of stuff. So I think it's interesting if the playbook stuff can, even itself out a little bit, and we'll see how Plumlee continues to build rapport with his teammates. I think the throwing thing to me is probably close to a push, maybe a slight edge to Keene. And then there's decision making. I think that's where this comes down to. If we're going to do presidential polling here, right? We've got 3 counties here not reporting playbook, leadership, and then decision making, and then the throw is kind of an asterisk. And I think it'll be curious to see which of those Gus prioritizes. Or, I mean, everybody listening, do you all agree with that analysis? Maybe Mike and I have something wrong here. You saw something different, but I think I'm curious to see if Gus put it on a whiteboard like this, how he would score it out.
Right, and we are at an advantage this year. It's not like last year where we opened up against Boise State. The first game of the year this year is South Carolina State. I think both guys are going to get plenty of playing time. This is going to be like the 2019 season where we opened up with Brandon Wimbush at quarterback, but yet Dylan Gabriel came in and saw a lot of time. You know, other guys got to go in and throw the ball around a little bit. So that's going to be treated, I think, like a maybe even more of a spring game type of thing, where we're going to see both guys with the starting offenses. I wouldn't be surprised if you see both guys come in the first 2 series, or in the first quarter at least.
Yeah,
you know, and play a lot early in the game. So I think there's a long way to go. That game may decide who starts the next game against Louisville.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, just because somebody trots out a week 1 under center does not mean they trot out week 2, right? We've seen that before. It happens all the time in college athletics. So I guess anything's possible, Mike. Here's a couple things. I didn't have a UCF observations list here available, but I've got a couple of observations specific to the game. Number 1, Jalen Robinson is back. I know I had asked the question a few weeks ago on our show, basically saying, you know, he's the X factor. How is he going to look, Mike? He's back. I mean, he made a fantastic 70-yard touchdown catch. He looked electric when he had the ball. If there was any doubts about his health, about his connection with Mikey Keene, I mean, I think that can be put to rest. He looked fantastic in the spring game.
Well, that's huge. He was our best receiver a couple years ago, him along with Gabe Davis. But the injury last year was a big hurdle to overcome, and Ryan O'Keefe stepped up in his place. But now to have both those guys on the field at the same time, that is going to be trouble for a lot of defenses.
Next observation, Kobe Hudson is the real deal, Mike. This guy made a great catch on the sidelines, did a tiptoe. He caught a 57-yarder from Plumlee, made a couple other good catches. He had 5 for 112 on the day, Mike. I know he was a well-hyped receiver coming out of Auburn. We've been kind of asking who's the third receiver. You know, is it Jalen Griffin, who, while didn't have a huge spring game, everyone still continues to rave about what he's done this camp. But Kobe Hudson is the real deal, Mike. This is a pro receiver. He was really good.
Well, he was the leading receiver at Auburn, which tells you a lot right there. And you know, he was one of the guys that got banged up a little bit, right? Both Kobe's, Kobe Perry and Kobe Hudson, kind of. Did he have to leave the game for a little portion there?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't. Kobe Perry actually went to the ground and had to be helped up. I think Kobe Hudson was more of a quick, like, down and out to the sideline. But from what I understand, both Kobe's are well, I think. But I mean, this guy's a pro receiver, Mike. He was good. He was legit. He was every bit as advertised. Made good plays. Was smooth in his routes. Was smooth out of the break. He looked really good.
He's a good replacement, or maybe even an upgrade from Brandon Johnson last year, who had a very good season and caught a touchdown in almost every game.
Yeah.
You add that in with the speed guys on the outside, I mean, the wide receiver room is going to be pretty deep this season.
Well, that was the other thing. Amari Johnson, I mean, he caught 2 screen passes and took one to the house. You know, he was kind of playing that Ryan O'Keefe role on the other team. I think O'Keefe started off he was in white, so he was on the gold team, or the black team, whatever. Amari Johnson caught a couple of those screen passes and took him to the house too. Amari Johnson is a guy that I know last year he had a couple of games. He had, the ball unfortunately bounced off his shoulder pad. He had a couple of rough games in the punt return business, but he was electric when he got the ball in his hands too, Mike. So he's another interesting weapon. I'm curious if he was getting reps just, to keep guys like O'Keefe fresh, or if Gus has a plan for him, because he was certainly electric with the ball in his hand.
There's no doubt he's got the athleticism. We saw that his freshman year against, I think it was FAMU, the game when he caught a long touchdown. And I thought this guy was going to be an explosive receiver for many years. He hasn't broke out yet, and that play against Louisville is going to haunt him for a while. And unless he comes back this year and is able to contribute and have a nice season, I'm looking forward to it. Number 17.
Johnny Richardson's big play ability continues to shine through. Had another nice big run. He did fall down a couple of times, so whatever that cleat thing is, we got to get that worked out. But we talked about him last week as kind of a player to watch, and it's interesting because we already knew to watch him. But I mean, he looked electric. He made another huge run like he did the last spring game too, Mike. If he gets more confidence, can stay on his feet, I mean, he's going to be a scary complement to that running back room.
Yeah, we saw last year. He led the team in rushing last year kind of quietly and had a very good game against the Gators. A couple big plays there at the end to kind of salt things away. If you get him with Bowser healthy all year, that is a deadly 1-2 punch in the backfield. I love Johnny Richardson. He's a guy that can break it from anywhere on the field if he can stay on his feet. Now, that has to get figured out. We cannot have this anymore. It can't be a cleat thing at this point, right? We're not the first ones to notice this. We think they've been trying different cleats.
Nobody's noticed? It's just us.
Is it just him I don't know, getting too far out in front of himself? I don't get it. I don't know why he keeps falling over, but that needs to get figured out.
Yeah, it's almost like he's moving too fast for his own good. Like that's almost kind of the way I think about it. It just looks like he, is moving too fast, and it's hard to say that. The secondary, Mike. I don't know if there was blown coverages. I don't know. Again, it was really hard sometimes to tell, from play to play who was in the game because if they're running their back to you, all you saw was the QR code. So you couldn't really see sometimes who was in. So hard to say who was in and out on all those plays. But the secondary had a couple of blown coverages, Mike. And again, I don't know if that was just a great play by the quarterbacks and the receivers, if it was a young kid in there, but the secondary definitely giving up 774 yards. It was a little shaky in the back end there.
A lot of that may have to do with just something as simple as communication. Maybe things are just not worked out yet. Maybe, like you said, there's younger guys. You don't even know who was in the game at some of those points. But not something you like to see. Obviously, it shows how good our wide receivers are. Mm-hmm. But these guys, going up against them every day in practice, should have a better grasp on that. It's not good, but that's something that can get cleaned up if it's just as simple as guys being in the right spot at the right time and not they're just getting burned because they're not fast enough.
While he did look great at times, Mike, you can tell that Thomas Castellanos is got a ton of talent and is going to do some great things at UCF. It was clear watching the quarterbacks play, and Parker Navarro was injured. We'll get to him in a second. He did not play, so it was just Plumlee, Keene, and Castellanos who played. You could certainly tell the separation between the top two and Castellanos, but I don't think that takes away from this kid's future. I know we'd all maybe ruminated, you and I was one in particular, to say, hey, maybe watch out for the freshman, but it was pretty apparent that he's still got some stuff to learn, although I think he's got all the skills there in the time that he was in the game.
Yeah, he's going to be a work in progress, and there's nothing wrong with sitting out in college for the first year or two and getting caught up to the speed of the game and grasping the playbooks and all things like that. So nothing to worry about here. Obviously, he's talented and he's got a bright future ahead of himself. So it'll be good for him to learn for the first year, maybe sit behind some veteran guys and get to know the playbook a little bit more, get to know the receivers and build up chemistry with those young guys too.
Here's my next one. I don't know who is good between the offensive line and the defensive line. I said there were 14 sacks unofficially. The quarterbacks were not live though, so grabbing a shoulder pad or touching an arm. I mean, they were basically calling a lot of those in the grasp, even though they probably weren't. I think there were sacks the quarterbacks could have run out of or could have gotten themselves out of, but they got a lot of pressure up front. I don't know if I should applaud the D line or if I should be concerned about the O-line. Like 14, quote unquote, 14 unofficial sacks. That's a lot. Or is it on the quarterbacks? Is it on the quarterbacks? Keene, Plumlee, Castellanos are not getting rid of the ball. But I don't know what to make of that. I couldn't really tell who won that battle live in the moment. And looking at the stats, obviously you would think the D line did, but I don't know what to think about the O-line D line battle.
14 sacks out of 100 plays is a lot. Right? You figure that in a real game, that's probably going to be like 7 sacks a game, 8 sacks a game, maybe more. That it's hard to tell in a situation like this. You said the quarterbacks are not live. I'm sure a couple of those Plumlee would have got away from and maybe even turned into a bigger game. So I'll pass on judging that part of the game.
All right, Mike will take a pass on that part. All right, let's get to some of the stuff that probably matters very little. Gus went with the visor. We'd ruminated about what headgear he might wear. He went with visor, so we did not get the Tommy Bahama hat out of Gus.
Wow, that is the upset of the day, I think.
Yeah,
he wears that other hat all the time. He wears them in the press conferences. He wears them at practice. It was a hot day out there, right?
It was a scorcher. Yeah.
I mean, you would think he went with the big sombrero, but he chose not to.
Yeah.
Maybe he heard the show along with some other guys in the front office of UCF last week, and kind of went against the grain.
Well, let's talk about that. So the QR code, it obviously was announced formally, later in the week. We'd kind of joked about that being an option. You had thrown that out there as we have to do a QR code, and lo and behold, they did do that. A lot of people on Twitter had some opinions about it. It certainly was the talk of social media. The players seemed to like it overall. You saw the photos, Mike. You kind of saw how it looked. What were your thoughts on the QR code?
Well, I think you hit the most important things there. The players liked it.
Yeah.
I think the recruits liked it. And I got a couple of comments out of guys saying, how they enjoy stuff like that. And the biggest thing, people were talking about it. Mm-hmm. People were talking about it all day on Friday, and not just UCF fans, but all of college football. All the major reporters had comments on it. Fan bases, positive or negative, they're talking about it. There's no such thing as bad press. So for those reasons, it was a genius idea. I wish I would have came up with it. In fact, I think I did come up with it.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a success. Whether you could read the numbers or know who was who while watching the spring game, really is not that big of a deal for guys like us. I mean, the coaches knew who made which plays. They're going to go back and watch the film. They'll know who's who. There were numbers on the sleeves and in the front of the jersey, so no need to really complain about not knowing who's who. Even though I think you did send me a text.
I'm going to complain. No, I'm going to complain, Mike, because there were a period of time where I was like, I don't know who made. Like, I can't tell who made that play. So the white jersey was the white Nitro hat. So the white jersey with the gold numbering, which is, again, it's not really a great contrasting color. So it was hard to read the front of the jersey. Obviously from the stands, it's not always easy to see any arm sleeve numbers. And I don't think there are numbers on the Nighthead jerseys. I don't think they're on the shoulder pad. So your only option was the front of the jersey. And so it was really tough to see sometimes who made a play, who got injured, who caught the pass. It was really hard to follow some of that stuff for a period of time. And to your point, the grand scheme of it is Gus doesn't really give a crap if I saw who caught the ball. But still, as a fan, I was trying to understand, like, okay, who's playing, who's getting reps, who's doing what. And it took some really good concentration to figure some of that stuff out, because it was a bit challenging to see the numbers. Again, I get that I'm not the target audience for the QR code, and the publicity they get out of that is much greater than my understanding of the depth chart. But it was a bit of a challenge at times to figure out who was actually making what play out there during points of time during the game.
What about in the stadium? Was Jeff Sharon giving you the plays?
He was, yeah. He was. Yeah.
Okay.
But even I caught, no, all due respect to Jeff, I'm sure your job is hard. I caught him a couple times with a flub. He had Andrew Osteen kicking an extra point. And it was clearly Colton Boomer. You could just tell by the hair and the body style, right? But I think it was tough to see the 35, 36 in the white jersey. So I think there was even some times where he probably got a little bit caught in the air and was trying to make some decisions. Again, overall, you figured it out in the end. But there are also some times where I think they just punted on it, and they were like, and the defensive line with a tackle, 2nd and 12. Like, they didn't even necessarily offer the name of the individual, because sometimes it was really hard to figure that out. So whoever was the spotter up in the box, good on you, friend, because that had to be a challenge.
Yeah, there were plenty of times last year during the season where Jeff would have to come back and correct himself anyway, and that's without the QR codes. He'd give credit to one guy for a tackle, and the correction was somebody else. So that can't be easy, and that job had to be a lot harder on Saturday.
Yeah, I get it. I think he overall did a fantastic job trying to make heads or tails of all that stuff, because it certainly was a challenge, Mike, especially for me, because I told you this on the show last week. I splurged. I decided to sit in the stadium club, or the club level, if you will, for the game, Mike. So I've got my top 5 list of things I enjoyed about sitting up there in the Tower Club for the spring game. Are you ready for this top 5 list?
All right. Yeah, I can't wait for these.
All right, number 5. Quality wristbands, Mike. They had these these nylon wristbands that basically tightened around your wrist. It was, it wasn't that plastic that gets to your skin and makes it hurt. It was a nice little quality nylon wristband. It had a little braid thing at the end there that you could sort of move around a little bit. So it wasn't that cheap, where you got to put the plastic, put the thing on there. Very easy process. Very nice wristband. Quality wristband. I enjoyed the wristband in the Tower Club. Number 5, Mike, was that wristband. It was impressive.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I forget where I was that had that. Maybe it was like a food festival or something. Yeah, they're a lot more comfortable on the wrist. And that's good.
Easier to get off.
Good observation.
Number 4, Mike.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, number 4, Mike. The brownies were fantastic. So they had a tray of brownies that were out there, and I grabbed one, and I was like, "That's really good." Told my wife, "Hey, these are good brownies." So I went back a second time to get a second brownie, and thought I'd be a nice guy, bring her one. She also went to the other brownie table, came back with 2, one for her, one for me. So a lot of brownies were consumed at that moment in time, Mike. But those things were fantastic. The hot dogs, not so much. I know you were a big fan of the hot dogs. They were there. The buns were fine. No controversy there. Obviously, it's a spring game, so it's a modified spread. I totally get it. But give me brownie over hot dog. The brownies were fantastic.
You can't really go wrong with brownies unless you really just burn them or something. But that's a good perk to have.
Yeah.
Everybody likes a good dessert. Brownies are good. Chocolate chip cookies, all that stuff. I'm all for all that. Now, somebody was mentioning maybe the chili dogs were not really quite up to par. Did you eat any?
Don't know.
Hot dogs?
I had the hot dog. I abstained from the chili just because I felt like it was a dicey situation to begin with. Early hot game in the sun. There may be some libations involved. I just felt like chili wasn't where I wanted to be at, so I abstained from the chili. But I could certainly see how it would wreck some people's days. That seems pretty plausible to me.
Yeah, you can't really get too messed up off of a brownie, right?
No,
that's the worst.
I felt safe about them brownie. Number 3, perk of being in the Tower Club, Mike. Celebrity sightings. I saw a lot of UCF celebrities walking around up there. Hung out with UCF probs for about 5 minutes and just 2 podcast guys cutting it up. Ran into Carson Engel. Didn't realize who it was initially. Came back. I was like, oh, that was Carson Engel. Couldn't place his face and his name, yada, yada, yada. Carlos McCants was there. Ran into Carlos McCants. A couple of listeners to the show, Mike, were there. Diana Mims was there. I think the guy who goes by Me and Angus, he was there. He came over and said hello. So I got a chance to meet him. Got a couple of love the Sons of UCF as people walked by. So I'm not sure if I was the celebrity in that configuration or if they were the celebrity, but a lot of nice celebrity sightings there in that Tower Club, Mike. It was good to meet a lot of people. Saw a lot of people walk around. It's a smaller space, so you have more chance to see people and maybe bump into somebody versus, in the concourse or maybe even in the cabana. So celebrity sightings is my third favorable thing about the Tower Club.
Yeah, I like to hear that. I like to hear guys are going up to you. You are the celebrity. People know your face now. They see us every week on the YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
There we go. Nice plug.
So how many people do you say came up to you? You had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, I like the show.
Well, most of them introduced themselves, and there was only one guy who hit me with a drive-by of like, Adam, go Knights. And I was like, hey, go Knights. And I don't know who it was. Only one guy really hit me with a drive-by. Everybody else typically stopped and said something or introduced themselves or shared like their Twitter handle or like who they were. So only one person hit me with a drive-by that I was like, I don't know who that was.
How many times did you feel somebody like looking at you like they thought they knew who you were, but they weren't going to say anything? Any of those?
I had a few of those. Yeah, I had a few of those. So in shameful admission, I wore the Sons of UCF polo. So shameful admission, I saw a few people looking at the shirt and kind of looking up and being like, huh? But, either they didn't approach me or, I moved on or something. So there's a couple that you could kind of sense maybe someone's like this person looks familiar. There was one time I was talking to my daughter. We were outside under the railing watching the game, and I was talking to my daughter, and somebody was their back was to me, so I could see the back of their head while I was talking to Addison. And I said something, and the guy turned around. And almost like he recognized my voice, which is really awkward because I guess I don't consider that. But he turned around and like made like a real look at me. And I only said something like, oh, that's a good tackle. Or, oh, he's got to make that. It wasn't anything like super, hot takey. So it could have been a voice recognition there as well. I did not follow up on that one though.
Yeah. I mean, people that follow the show know the voices probably better than the faces.
Yeah.
Been doing that a lot longer. So that's pretty cool, man. I like hearing stuff like that. No stalkers though, right? No, everybody kept their distance at least.
Yeah, no stalkers. Everyone really super nice, super friendly. Again, got a chance to chat with a few people for a couple minutes. Some people just a quick little drive by, hello, and a fist pound. So that was cool. I'll get to this, in a later element too, but celebrity sightings while we were on the field as well. So some other people recognized us down there too, which was cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I know you ran into a couple of guys that we've had on the show, right?
We ran into some. Yeah, we ran into a handful of guys, Mike. All right, number 2 perk of the Tower Club. Air conditioning. It was a game changer. It was a game changer for us. It was a hot day, as you mentioned. I noticed though the air conditioning was a little colder on the south side of the stadium club than the north side. I don't know why that is, but it was hot out there. It was pretty steaming. So getting some time to go outside, watch the game a little bit, come back inside, and they had TVs everywhere where you could just kind of watch the TV feed, go back outside, sit down for a little bit, come back inside, watch the TV feed. The window spots filled up pretty quickly, and those are veterans. They stayed where they were. They did not give up their seats, which was smart. But that AC was a game changer. It definitely gave you some moments of comfort, particularly at a noon kickoff in a hot game like that.
Yeah, that's when you really need it. It's for those early games. AC is nice, but you got to be able to see the game with the AC too, right? You said there's a few window spots. If you can't see it, if you're not up against the window.
Well, they have TVs that were playing the feed, so in theory you could watch it on the TV in front of you, but you had to get closer to the window if you wanted to actually watch it live on the field versus the TV.
All right, but that's still good. Family guy like you, like me, you bring the wife and kids. Yeah. They're not as into the game as we are, and if they're more comfortable sitting in the AC, then that makes you happier too.
And the number one thing about the Tower Club that I enjoyed, Mike, is 16-ounce White Claws, my friend. They were there, went up to the bar, moseyed over there, and they did not have the assortment on the counter yet, right? And so I was like, hey, what are we working with here today? And she starts rattling stuff off or whatever, and then she's like, oh, and I think we have, and she pulls this thing, and she's like, oh, yeah, we have White Claws. I was like, say no more. Not only did she have White Claw, 16 ounces, black cherry, which was the most popular flavor. Get the mango out of here. I've been crying and been yelling. I've been screaming for black cherry White Claws for the entire year. I don't know if they've always been in the Stadium Club or in the Tower Club, and we just didn't know about it. If this is a new phenomenon, I need somebody who's been there. I should have actually fact-checked that with any of the number of people I ran into. But I need to know if that's a new phenomenon. But the 16-ounce White Claw, happy to report, Mike, was there. They were on the ready. They saw me coming. They already had them kind of popped open for me. So it was a good little system worked out for a while there. So in terms of the Sons of UCF request of food and beverage, hot dogs and seltzers taken care of in the Tower Club.
All right. Good to know. Now, we have decisions to make. We are currently season ticket holders in the Black and Gold Cabana.
That's us. Yep.
Other side of the field.
Yep.
There's no AC over there.
None.
The sun is directly in your face.
Get it out of here.
12 o'clock, 3 o'clock game. But I think the atmosphere on that side may be a little bit more rowdy,
yep.
A little bit younger crowd.
Yep.
It's different during a spring game. So if you had to pick,
okay,
sight lines are the same, right? You're just the opposite side of the field.
Sure, yeah.
You're on the home team side as opposed to the visiting team side. That doesn't really matter. I mean, sometimes if you're close enough, you can heckle the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you thinking? For the price, we're probably staying in the Black and Gold Cabana, right?
Probably.
If you have, hey, now that we got our
sponsors, I know.
Gordon and partners,
yeah, maybe
we get a Sons of UCF booth up there. A little Sons of UCF club suite.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a game changer.
It is, yeah. We'll have to renegotiate our contract on that one, I think. So I actually posed this question to the family again, the wife, the 14-year-old, and the 9-year-old, and I said, "Hey, you guys have now we've been here. The free food. I mean, my little guy was like, 'Are those cookies?' I didn't see him for like a quarter and a half. My wife was like, 'I'll be inside if you need me.' So I figured, okay, I know where we're going here. So I hit him up after the game. I'm like, okay, look. We could make a change here. Like we may not eat for a couple of months, but we could make a change. We could go Tower Club. Who's into it? They all voted no. Everybody wants to stay in the cabana. And the reasoning was, as you know, Mike, we carved out a little spot up the very top section there where we could sort of stand, and we had sort of that whole area to ourselves. We were within a walking distance of beverages if we needed them. There were some games where it was a little chilly. We had a nice breeze up there. So the family voted for atmosphere, thought that, we had a better setup there on the cabana side than they thought Tower Club. So the Eaton family, unanimous decision to stay in the cabana.
Nice. Now, did you see at all those loge seats that they have up there by the Tower Club?
I did.
And now it's basically the same spot we're stand at the other side, but now you got a little table there with some swivel seats, I believe.
Yep, little picnic
Check
table.
those out. Are they nice? We
walked through those. They let us walk around there before. So it depends on where you're at, because that thing wraps around pretty far. So towards the tail end of it, you're at about the end zone. The end zone. You're kind of out there. So you lose some of that sight line the further you go. I could see where that would be advantageous. You have a chair, you have something to sit in, you have something to watch. But I think for me, I'm probably more of a stander during the game anyway. So I probably would underutilize the seating stuff. For a family that might work, but I unless I get like that first or second loge, then I probably stay cabana.
Yeah, I'm a stander too. The only thing, the table is nice if you got to load up on the hot dogs and the beers. But even on the other side of the cabana, they have that little railing there where you could put some stuff up there. So, all right. It's cabana to this for another season.
Okay, well, we've decided.
Keep my seats there.
Yeah, we've decided.
I like the atmosphere in the cabana. I think most of the fans are about our age, or maybe 30s, early 40s. Guys that like to put some back during the game. I think it's a little rowdier over there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling a South Carolina State game, we're up by 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. You got to stay in your seat on that side and kind of keep everybody happy. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll move over to the big bucks, but for now, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it's a good experience. I mean, it's certainly a good opportunity to get in there, and I could see why you would enjoy a game there. If somebody was like, "Hey, here's Tower Club tickets," I wouldn't rip them up and turn them away. But I do think the atmosphere is cool on the cabana side, and so we will stay there, Mike. But let's talk about after the game. Everyone got to go down on the field, which was really cool, and I got a chance to meet a couple of the players. My son got some autographs from some guys, Mike. So here's the first thing I would tell you is like Plumlee, for example. We ended up in the Plumlee line, and this poor kid, Mike, probably talked to 30 to 40 people that while we were standing there, took pictures with all of them, autographs, smile. I mean, he's turning left, turning right, smile, 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 smile. I mean, he was super accommodating. I could tell how I would probably get annoyed after a few of those. Was super nice, super accommodating, signed everybody's autograph, took everybody's picture, smiled every time. He got a ton of, thanks for coming here. And he was, always like, I'm glad to be here. This place is awesome. So really, forming my opinion of him more and more, getting a chance to kind of be around him. Really super nice guy, Mike. That was cool to see how engaged he was with all the fans and how open he was at taking pictures and everything.
Well, you can tell. I mean, just the few videos we've seen of him, the video he did for us with Monster the Barber. He's just got that smile that's constantly on his face, and that goes a long way, especially with fans. If you want to be a grumpy son of a bitch and not sign autographs and it's kind of, more of a me guy, then, the first time you make a mistake, people are going to be quick to jump on you. If you're a nice guy, it may buy you a little bit of leeway here.
Next, we headed over to Amari Gamble, the new tight end, and another super nice guy, Mike. Again, another guy who everyone said, welcome to the team. He's like, so glad to be here. This place is awesome. I appreciate it. He actually thanked the people around him for coming to the game. He's like, man, this is great. All you guys came out. This is awesome. Signed autographs, took pictures. He was cool to be around. Headed over towards Alex Ward, who I don't think he's ever been on the show. I know we've interacted on Twitter, but like as soon as my little guy came over, he took a picture, let him wear his helmet, which was cool. Knelt down, took a picture, gave him a high five, talked to him for a few minutes. That was cool. Then we found Johnny Richardson, who my son almost is as tall as, which is interesting. But again, another nice guy. I mean, he signed autographs. He asked him if he had a good time at the game. He was really cool. Then we ambled over to a friend of the program, Mike, Austin Camden, who was announced his retirement, came on the show like a week later, basically did the farewell interview, and now is back with the team. He recognized us right away. He came over and we talked for a few minutes and kind of shared his story. He wants to get back on the show, so we'll book Austin again, Mike. But he was another guy. Everyone coming over, taking pictures. Couldn't have been nicer. Answering questions, interacting with fans. He was just hanging out, chatting with people, which was awesome. It was just like basically like a D tackle was hanging out the 10-yard line, just talking ball with whoever wants to come near him. That was really cool.
That picture, I've already mentioned it to you off the air. He looks like he's a long-lost member of your family. Him and your son look like they could be brothers.
Yeah, we've launched an investigation.
Yeah, look into that.
We've launched an investigation. Yeah. Efforts are
Get in
underway.
touch with the Camden family.
Yeah.
Right. Very, very similar looking fellow.
Yes.
But very nice guy.
Very, very handsome man. And then we amble over to a large crowd gathering, and I quickly realized why. Ryan Swabota and Paul Rubel were taking pictures and signing autographs together. If you're not familiar with these two gentlemen, they're both 6 feet 10 inches tall. They both play tackle, and so they were lifting people on their shoulders. Mike, they were lifting kids over their head. People were taking pictures. My daughter got in a picture. She's 5'5", and she looks like an ant compared with these two guys in the photo. But again, super nice. They were very friendly, cracking jokes. You can tell Paul it wasn't super comfortable with the English language thing just yet, but they were having a good old time. They were like the fun bunch of the entire exercise, lifting people up and doing stuff like that. They were a ton of fun to be around, and everybody really enjoyed those two guys getting together.
Well, Rubel's been doing that since he's got here. I mean, the famous picture of him at Hooters with the waitresses on his shoulder. So it's cool to have guys like that on the team too. And I've heard Swabota before. He was in one of the spaces, I believe, one time, and seems like a guy that really wants to engage the fan base, and that's great, and that's what you need to do in today's day and age with the NIL stuff. I mean, you got to start building fans somewhere, and as an offensive lineman, you're not going to get all the glory that maybe a Bowser or a starting quarterback's going to get. So you got to do what you got to do. You got to kiss some babies. You got to put some people on your shoulders. If it sells a couple extra T-shirts, why not?
The last guy we met, Mike, was Mikey Keene. So the way they work this is they basically, I think, give you like 30 minutes on the field, and then they basically kick you off. And you got like a 10-minute warning, a 5-minute warning. So we're in line for Mikey. There's probably like three people in front of us, and they basically hit us with a 1-minute warning, right? And my little guy is like, oh, I want to meet Mikey Keene. I'm like, okay, well, buddy, you'll see what happens here, right? So Mikey signs the next person, and he's like, all right, guys, we got to wrap it up soon. But there's probably like 3 or 4 kids. And then they announced the horn, hey, all right, everybody, thanks for coming out. Basically get the hell off the field, right? And I would not have blamed Mikey at all if he had been like, hey, it's been 30 minutes of this nonstop. But he stayed. There was like 4 or 5 kids around, including mine. He stayed, signed their autographs, took some pictures. He didn't run out of there. He got everybody that I think he could on the way out, which I thought was cool, Mike, because he could have easily thrown his Sharpie on the ground and been like, I'm free, I'm done, I'm out of here. But he stuck out, and he got like the last 3 or 4 autographs and pictures in, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, he gets it. You can tell Mikey's a kid that gets it. He knows, the fans are what drive the program. If nobody shows up to the games, then that changes everything. You want to see the place packed, and in order to do that, you're going to have to engage the fans here and there, especially on social media, and then when you get opportunities like this in person. So it's not going to hurt them. Stick around an extra 5 minutes, hang out, and you see all the good that comes out of it.
Some other news that comes out of the spring game, typically, Mike, after this is the transfer portal opens up. If you've been listening to us exclusively, we've been telling you that we are going to see more people hit the portal. I think we predicted after the spring you would see more guys hit the portal, Mike. And UCF had a couple of names hop in here the last couple of days. Probably the biggest name, a name everybody will know, is one Parker Navarro. He was the 4th quarterback. Turns out he was injured recently in a practice. I think it's a broken clavicle, has him probably out for the year. Which seems interesting because you still got a lot of time left, so maybe there's a chance down the end of the road, but who knows? Either way, he was dressed in his jersey, but with a sling on, did not play after the game. Mike put his name into the portal. So the quarterback room now, at least on campus, is Keene, Plumlee, and Castellanos. I know we have Dylan Widner coming in from Cocoa as a walk-on, but the room got a little thinner. Gatewood moving to receiver tight end, and then and now Navarro in the portal. Mike, your favorite memory of the Parker Navarro era is what?
Goal line at the end of last season, he was very good. Scored a couple touchdowns, and he's one of these kids that just did everything that was asked of him. Never complained about anything. He wasn't the starting quarterback, but he didn't let that bother him. Joey Gatewood comes in, and they have a package for him for the majority of the season. That doesn't bother him, and he's stayed ready for when his time was called, and we needed him there at the end of the year, and he came through for us. So, we knew this was going to happen. I mean, you can only play one quarterback at a time, right? It's not a position like receiver or running backs where you can mix guys in here and there. At most, you're going to have 2 guys getting a lot of playing time. Writing's on the wall with Plumlee here now. and Plumlee can do a lot of the same things that he was doing with the running. So it doesn't appear there's going to be the Parker Navarro package this season. So he feels like he's got a chance to go somewhere else and get some playing time, maybe be a starter somewhere. He's still young enough where he can have a nice little college career for himself. I don't blame him one bit.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he's a super nice kid. To your point, everything that we've ever heard about him seems like, he's done what's asked of him. He came in as a Heupel recruit, and we are all very high on him. And then the next year we get Mikey Keene, and all of a sudden Parker becomes like Parker who, and that's just kind of the way this thing works, right? It just kind of works out that you're the guy for that class, and we bring in another guy in the next class, and you have to keep kind of moving around and earn your spot. He got some time last year, and he played well. Hopefully he latches on someplace. He's a good kid. I mean, maybe Tennessee has an option for him to reunite with Heupel. I don't know. The injury is going to be tough, Mike. But yeah, he's one of those guys you root for because he certainly seemed like a really nice kid. And unfortunately, to your point, it's a numbers game after a while, and your numbers not up, and you got to make a decision that's right for you. So we'll see what happens. Then on Tuesday, linebacker Cole Joyce, who got a lot of playing time in the spring game. Like, linebacker is an area where we're already pretty thin with the loss of Tatum Bethune in the offseason. Cole Joyce may or may not have been in line for snaps. I don't know what this means, but he is now in the portal, Mike. So maybe he's not in line for snaps. I don't know.
That's
clearly he's not in line for snaps actually at this point.
That's the first thing you think of when somebody enters the portal is because they're not happy about playing time. But it could be any other reason. I mean, it may just be that he doesn't get along with the coach, or something else maybe have happened. Maybe he's got a girlfriend that moved somewhere else and he wants to go be closer to her. Who the heck knows? So, these things happen, and these guys will be replaced. And just because we're losing guys in the portal today doesn't mean we're not going to pick up 3 or 4 more before fall starts anyway. So I think we'll be okay. Yeah,
I mean, there's some talk about a couple of FCS guys who potentially already soft commits to UCF. I think there was a kid that last name was Jennings. He was a Maryland linebacker, chose to go to Kansas State. He's already now re-entered the portal, even though he's only been there a semester. I don't know what his eligibility is if he has to sit, so he's a name out there. And just like you said, Mike, we're not the only school going through this. You're going to see other schools, other players recognize where they are on the depth chart and just say to themselves, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try to move to something different. So I suspect we're going to see more portal options available, Mike. I would keep an eye on the running back room. I mean, we got some really talented running backs. That picture they posted on the field after the game, I mean, Mark Anthony Richards is huge. Bowser's a big guy. Jordan McDonald, the freshman's a big guy. Anthony Williams is a big guy. We know Johnny Richardson's going to play. RJ Harvey's coming back. The running back room is another room I would keep an eye on. And same thing with the receivers. We have so many receivers. We already mentioned a handful of them today. We didn't talk about Jordan Johnson. We didn't talk about Deontay Marks. Quan Lee hasn't stepped foot on campus yet, and he's supposed to be a big-time receiver. So the running back receiver room probably has me a little concerned that one of those guys in each room potentially hops in the portal.
Yeah, that's going to happen. But you just mentioned all the depth that we have. We can afford to have one of those guys go. We can afford to have one of those guys get injured, and we still have plenty of other guys to step up and take their spot. Now, the problem you get to is if 2 guys transfer and then 2 guys get injured, and all of a sudden you're shorthanded. So you try to limit it, but expect it to happen. Expect the running back to go. Expect the receiver to go. And if we can make up for it by picking up a starting linebacker, I'll take that trade. So.
Yeah, I mean, that'll free spots up, obviously, but this is the new college football thing. I think the freak out nature of what's going to happen is interesting because if you think about those names, Mike, RJ Harvey transferred once already, Jordan Johnson transferred once already, Deontay Marks transferred once already. So I mean, some of these guys have already limited or taken their free transfer option off the table. So this is where things get really kind of sticky, and guys are going to have to make tough decisions, and it sucks, and it's unfortunate this is how college athletics has kind of turned into, but I suspect more names will be in the portal, and hopefully it's nobody from a big name standpoint and somebody we can't afford to lose, and from a depth or a starting perspective, but there's probably going to be people.
Yeah, and just because somebody transferred doesn't mean they won't. Tate Martell transferred how many times?
7. I think he's still playing this year, actually. I got to look that up. I think he might still be playing.
If the guy's not going to get any playing time here just because he's already transferred here, it doesn't mean he won't transfer again. maybe he has to sit out. But if they're young enough, then that won't probably affect their decision.
All right, let's quickly pivot, Mike, to basketball. I think we've exhausted. Anything else on football you want to touch on? Anything we missed that you want to chat through?
No, I mean, I had some questions for the spring game. I think we pretty much covered all of them. Just give me this one thing. If you had to pick one player, so somebody who stood out, let's call it the Greg McCrae player of the game, somebody that you didn't really maybe expect to have a huge game, had a big game, and now is going to have an impact on this season coming up.
I'm going to go Kobe Hudson, and only because I didn't know what to expect from him. You know, we've seen these heralded receivers come in before, i.e. a Jordan Johnson from Notre Dame, and we've expected them to just light the world on fire, and sometimes it doesn't happen. So wasn't quite sure what to expect from Kobe Hudson, but Mike, he was smooth. So I'm going to go Kobe Hudson. I think we thought he would be battling for that 3, 4, 5 receiver spot. I mean, I certainly have not had LASIK eye surgery yet, but I feel like what I saw on the field, how he's not in that mix for 3, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Jalen Griffin had a really good spring as well, but, I mean, Kobe Hudson looked like the real deal out there.
All right, good to know. And man, that receiver room is loaded. Look at it that way. Yeah, I forgot about Quan Lee. He's supposed to be coming in, and he expects to play right away, too.
He sure does, yeah. And Stephen Martin, a name that we didn't know a whole lot about. Mike, he made a fantastic catch in the back of the end zone. He got a couple balls thrown his way. I also didn't mention Kamari Gamble. His name was mentioned a lot, and particularly I want to say it was more so when Mikey Keene was in there. You heard Kamari Gamble's name a bunch from Jeff Sharon over the PA system. So we had talked about how the tight end would be used. I saw that we've inspired a friendly bet between J.P. Gilbert and Cost-Seg Advisor on over/under tight end catches this year. 25.5, I think, is where they landed. Cost-Seg has the way over on this one. JP's taking the under, so I think they got a $25 gentleman's wager. I think I agreed to match it for $50 to somebody's charity. So, but Kamari Gamble got a ton of balls his way. You heard his name a bunch through the loudspeakers.
Yeah, so 25 doesn't seem like that much. That was the over/under number we used last year. How many catches did he have on Saturday alone? 4 or 5?
I don't even know.
So that's a good sign, though. And you throw in Holler, who had a good season last year. The tight end position should be a nice weapon for us, especially with all these wide receivers spreading the field and the running backs spreading things out. I mean, you got the tight end over the middle, nice big target like Gamble or Holler. This offense should be rolling as the season comes along.
Yeah, if you get the right quarterback, and that's where maybe the Keene Plumlee decision isn't as dire as we make it seem, because if you just figure out a way to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers in the right spots, then in theory these guys take care of the rest. So maybe the quarterback isn't as dire as we make it seem, but I still think obviously we need a strong person back there, and I think Gus may lean playmaker. So we'll see. By no means is that competition over, but if you can just find someone to get the ball in the right hands, this thing could take off. It's the defense now that you look at and you go 774 yards in a spring game, and I think you said this in the live show, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the defense typically has the advantage in these kind of scrimmages. No,
that's what you hear.
That's not what you saw.
That's not the case this time around. But the defense is a work in progress. The guys up front, like you said, they got pressure, but who knows what that even means with the 14 sacks. Is that a real number? I don't know. The secondary you were kind of hoping was going to be a little stronger, and the linebackers are what they are for now. But we're still not even playing with a full deck yet. So. Yeah. We'll see once everybody gets on campus in the fall. And
you said this in the live show Thursday. Tackling wasn't superb. There was a couple of times where you could definitely tell there's some missed tackles. We dove at some ankles. So it wasn't like the most crisp tackling experience I had ever seen as well. So I think, Trace always does these polls on the live show, coming out of the spring game, what are you more concerned about, offense or defense? I mean, I got to imagine that this thing would be 80% weighted defense after the spring game based on what people saw either in highlights or if they're there in person.
Yeah, but do you feel better coming out of the spring game that the offense looked so good? Or would you be a little more concerned if the defense just completely shut them down and the offense looked, anemic on both sides?
I said, I think on the show, I think people are there to see offense, right? They're there to root offense. Who do you root for? What are you rooting for in the game? I think is what we talked about last time. I think most people were rooting for 774 yards of offense, right? Because I think that's just the nature of how this thing works, because the offense is exciting. So I think most people are probably happy with that result. And probably a few were like, wait, our defense wasn't very strong. But I think right now it's, you're sort of drunk off the offensive numbers, which, puts butts in seats and gets people excited. But certainly I think there's some work to be done on the defensive side. I can't imagine T-Will's going to love putting up 774, particularly when he probably knew the plays that were coming to, by the way. So there's probably some extra work to be done on the defensive side. But, as you said, do we have everybody we need? Who was injured? Who didn't play a lot? I think there's some factors there too.
Yeah, and I think we're going to learn a lot more the first week of the season. When we play South Carolina State, is the final score 49-0 or is it 49-24, right? And if it's 49-24, then I'm going to be pretty concerned about the defense going forward, especially that next week against Louisville.
All right, to basketball we go, Mike. News, surprising news, not really, but it is, what we've been seeing more and more. 2 new names in the transfer portal in men's basketball. News was breaking late last week. Darren Green Jr., who had previously said he was coming back for his last season, just didn't say it was at UCF apparently, because Darren Green Jr. has left the program, and we subsequently learned this week, Mike, he is now going to be a Florida State Seminole. So he is traded in his mission control stripes for whatever the hell Dreamfield calls their FSU conglomeration there. So Darren Green is now a Seminole. Mike, seems like a pattern we've seen before. Thoughts on Darren, A, leaving, and B, becoming a Seminole?
Yeah, all the rats are jumping off the ship now. Now we have no more DGs left. They've all transferred out. We got to come up with a new top 5 DG list now that Darren Green's not even here anymore.
Let me check on Derek Gaines really quickly.
Yeah.
Graduated. Okay,
Doug Gabriel, welcome to the number 1 spot. But, Darren Green was a good basketball player for us. I'll come up with a hot take here. I don't think he's as good as everybody else made him seem like. He's a great shooter, or a very good shooter, because like most hot shooters, they go cold. And when he goes cold, there was plenty of times when that happened too. He could hit a lot of wide open shots. He wasn't a guy that I found could create his own shot very much outside that one highlight clip where he dribbled the ball behind his back and then shot a 3. He was a good player, but another guy where if you look at the stats, his best statistical season, I believe, was his freshman year. And shooting percentage has gone down, and that was with less minutes. So, he doesn't want to be here, then good luck to him. He wants to go to Florida State. I'm not going to root for anybody that goes to Florida State or Florida or any other school in the state. If he, went somewhere like a power like Kentucky or somewhere where he said, hey, I'm going to go there, I'm going to have a chance to play in the big dance, I'm going to be in the tournament, I'm going to be in the Sweet 16, I'm going to go a chance for the Final Four. That's one of the biggest reasons for transferring. Then I can understand it a little bit better. He's here. He was getting playing time. Now he's going to another in-state school. He's a young kid. I'll say good luck, but that's about it. I'm not going to hold hard feelings towards him, but I'm not going to root for him to do well at Florida State either.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what was funny about this, I'm not trying to start a conspiracy theory here, right? But we had seen Darren Green obviously put his name in the portal. And my initial reaction on the show last week, which was, this makes sense to me. He's got 1 year left. He's seen now everything that's kind of going on at UCF, realizing that, Isaiah Adams is transferred out, and some of that core nucleus that he was probably looking to play with has decided to move on. And he's like, I got 1 year left. I got to put some numbers up. I got to do something to maybe improve my draft stock. So let me go someplace and make that happen. That to me makes a ton of sense. I wasn't surprised by that. It sucks to lose him, obviously, but wasn't surprised. But then the list of schools came out, and Mike, there were some, there's some bigger schools on there. There's some blue blood. I'm trying to find that exact list. This is what Portal Talk, and they're on Twitter. They said that Kentucky, FSU, Texas, LSU, South Carolina, Auburn, Georgia, Mizzou, Oklahoma, Houston, Pitt, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Seton Hall, DePaul, Clemson, Nebraska, Miami, Alabama, and Virginia Tech. Kentucky, blue blood. Texas, usually pretty good. South Carolina's been good. Auburn was a top 5 team this year. Oklahoma's usually pretty solid. All these schools reached out, and this was 6 days ago, and he decides to go to Florida State. I don't know if he visited these other schools. I'm not sure what happened there. Something just seems a little off on that one, how he got to Florida State so quickly. Staying in state, I don't know if it's the NIL stuff with his deal with Dreamfield, and they have something similar there at Florida State. I don't really know. But, him going to Florida State that quickly, Florida State's been a decent basketball program. I mean, they've been super competitive. They've been in the tournament a bunch of years, and they've made some noise a few years. But something struck me as odd, that quick announcement to Florida State. To your point, I wish him well, but I don't. Something doesn't feel right about that.
Yeah, that's a lot of schools too. Those schools were all interested in him that quickly. How do we know this? How does the portal actually work? Is it like Tinder, where schools kind of swipe right on you, swipe left, and there's a match?
Like, why would you assume I know about Tinder? Why would you ask me that question like I know anything about Tinder? I think the way we've heard it from our guests before is once you're in the portal, you have two options. You can be either listed as open to be contacted or not open to be contacted. And I think once you're open to be contacted, schools can then reach out to you. Schools can then contact you and, ask questions or, hey, would you like to come visit us? Again, to be fair, this list says – this is what Portal Talk lists on their tweet. UCF transfer Darren Green Jr. tells me he has heard from the following. So this appears to be a sourced informational item from whoever runs Portal Talk talking directly to Darren Green, which tells me that somebody on these coaching staffs either direct messaged him, maybe they reached out to him on some other social media, maybe they have an email address, a phone number. I don't know what's in the portal. I don't know how you figure it out, but this is what Darren Green told Portal Talk that he had heard from. So I don't know how quickly that happens, but this was 6 days from today that he announced that this is what he heard from, and he announced he was at Florida State basically 5 days after being in the portal. So I don't know. And here we are with Isaiah Adams, who's in the portal now 2 weeks and still hasn't made a choice.
Yeah, there's another guy right before we started recording here tonight. I think he's either from Washington State or Wichita State. It was WSU, and he had a list of about 35 schools that he was interested in transferring to.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. I don't think we got him yet, by the way. But yes, we were on that list of schools, right? So I'm not saying something fishy there, but wish Darren the best. I understand why he would want to leave. I get to your point. Everything's kind of changing here in a hurry, and if you got 1 year left and you got to figure out how to make the best of it, how do you go do that? Maybe you move to another school and get that chance. Maybe he wants to stay in the state of Florida, close to family. I mean, he's an Orlando guy, I think, right? I think he's got family down there, so maybe he wants to be close to home still. I don't really know, but he's on the move, Mike. And then Jamil Reynolds, the sophomore big man who had played well, did not actually get any starts last year, although he played well in spurts. He also entered the portal, Mike. So according to the website, here are the returning players coming to UCF next year. Excludes now transfers and guys who have graduated. We have C.J. Walker, who averages 8.3 points a game. We have Darius Johnson, who averages 6.4 points a game. And we have Ty Freeman, who averages 5 points a game. At this point, we don't have enough people to play 5-on-5.
That could be a problem.
That could be
a big problem. But we always say that the portal taketh, the portal giveth, or how do we always?
Is that what we say?
Take it away.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, get fooled again. I'm with you.
Exactly. So we will pick up guys. Now the quality of guys is going to be the question. I have no problem turning this whole team over with the way they play.
You're going to get your wish. I don't think you have a choice, let alone a problem.
All right. So we know this is probably going to be a rebuilding year anyway. Let's see what Johnny can do here with what's left of this roster. You like what Darius Johnson looked like there at the end of the year, right? He looked like he was having a good season, but we thought the same thing about Isaiah Adams the year before. Now we got the the Henderson brothers coming up?
Henderson's play football. Hendricks play basketball. Yep. Okay.
All right, so the Hendricks brothers coming in. Supposed to be a blue chipper and one of those guys. So, this is going to be a wait-and-see process here with the basketball roster. And some of these guys, because they're in the portal, doesn't mean they're going anywhere. We've seen that before, too.
Yeah.
Brandon Mahan was in the portal last year, and then he came back. So, Isaiah Adams, you may see him back again next year. Who the heck knows? But, basketball is in a situation right now where 3 years ago we didn't think we'd be in this situation for a while again, right? Coming off the tournament, coming off that run we had, This is not how he pictured the program being 3 years later.
Brandon Hellwig from UCF Sports is reporting that Brandon Suggs, who previously played 3 seasons at ECU, is deciding now between a transfer to UCF or the Cows. He averaged 10 points, 4 boards a game. I think it looks like he was here for the spring game, so maybe he's interested. Michael Durr is a 7-footer who played for the Cows for a while, then was at Indiana. Apparently he was also in the mix and is deciding potentially between some schools, UCF, one of those schools. You mentioned we're on the list of a lot of different schools, but this is going to be one of those complete rebuild, first day of camp, hi, my name is stickers, because it's going to be a completely different squad. And Mike, I got to ask this question. I think it's a fair thing to ask, right? Now, Johnny has lost a lot of talent off of his team. Some of it was graduation, bound to happen. Obviously, a lot in the portal. That is where college sports is today. We're not the only program facing that, so that's not a Johnny Dawkins thing. But again, another new team coming in next year, another team of pieces that we're going to have to kind of glue together and see how they work. How do you think this impacts Johnny's job status? How do you think Timo looks at all of this and says, okay, now we've got another year of kind of a rebuild? It feels like, and I don't want to call it excuse, but it feels like every year there's always something. Well, there's injuries. Well, this guy didn't play. Well, we didn't get the team together for a while. Well, it was a new squad learning each other, right? And now it's going to be the exact same thing over and over again. At some point, we haven't had any consistency. Heading into the Big 12, a brand new squad. I mean, if we hit rock bottom, what do you do if Johnny's 16-14 next year? What do you do with that record with a hodgepodge of guys on the transfer portal on 1-year deals, 16-14 UCF heading into the Big 12? Is that a success? What do we do with that?
No, it's not a success. You do with it what your budget allows you to do with it. If we get to a point where it doesn't cost as much to change coaches, then I think you do that heading into the Big 12. I know Timo threw out that line the other night. He has another winning season. He's got nothing but winning seasons here. But he knows what's going on here with this program. He can't really comment on it, but I'm pretty sure he knows that, this thing has gone backwards now for a couple of years. And I don't give him a pass on this season. If we're no good because everybody transferred out, well, why did everybody transfer out? There's something going on here with the program. Obviously, not everybody's bought into it 100%. But, coming into this year, we said we were returning, 98% of the scoring?
Yeah.
Or 98% of the whole minutes and all that stuff. Well, now we're down to coming back for next year? Probably
right now, we're on pace to score 19 points a game.
So, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. And we saw the results of this year. Well, maybe this could end up being a positive if we get the right guys back here to fill in those roles. But it can't really be too much worse, right? What's worse? Just being stuck where we are right now is bad. It's kind of like we're in a relevant program when it comes to basketball. We're in the middle of the pack in a conference that's really not that great. So, if it takes – look, the football team had to go through 0-12, right, to get that change.
Well, I was about to ask you that question, so let me ask it for you because I know where you're going with this. As a fan, you never want to do this, but do you almost, in some respects, if we hit rock bottom and have a 9-win season, is that kind of, I'm not saying you're rooting for that, but that becomes an interesting premise in terms of what it might mean for the long-term health of the program.
Yeah, if that's what it's going to take to shake things up and get things moving in a different direction, then I'd prefer that than 16-14 and then have these same exact questions going into the year after that, going into the Big 12. At least if things went completely south and we had to figure it all out again, it's something new, and we're going into the Big 12 maybe with a little hope. Maybe with it depends on who the replacement is. It could be a big name guy going into the Big 12 in basketball could attract a big-time talented coach. To answer the question, yes, I'd prefer that than to just be stuck where we are here in neutral, not going anywhere and that could last 3 or 4 years. I'd rather just take one big step backwards if it means we're going to take some giant leaps forward.
A couple of things about that are interesting. One, I'm curious to see how much of a Well, I mean, let me start with this. I call this like the Jason Garrett effect, right? Where every year you're 8-8. You're not bad enough that you're a below 500 team or you're losing everything, but you're not good enough where you're in the playoffs or you're out in the first round, right? It's the Jason Garrett effect. It's every August 8th. It's Jason Garrett Day. It's 8-8 Day. It's I lived through it for decades as a Cowboys fan, right? It's 8-8. You're never really moving forward, but you're never really falling behind. At some point, you need to either go one way or the other, and that's what sucks about it is that you don't want to be that team that goes in the other direction. But what are you going to do? I'm curious to see how Timo prioritizes basketball, though, because he's obviously a football guy. He played football. We know Danny Waite previously was more of a basketball guy. That was more of his sport. But obviously the money, the revenue clearly points in the football direction. We all understand that. But how much is Timo willing to prioritize basketball? We saw what he was going to do for Coach Abe, right? We heard the numbers that he was sharing potentially that he was going to offer Coach Abe. How much is he going to prioritize men's basketball? We just had the Charge On Fund come through, right? Or it was the Day of Giving or 407, whatever it was, and a bunch of money got earmarked for athletics. We don't get this level of detail, but let's say Timo got, round number, $1 million, right? How much of that is he going to earmark for basketball? And I think that's the part we don't know. I'm curious to see how much is Timo willing to invest in basketball? How much is that important to his long-term strategy of building sort of a world-class athletics program? I think that we don't quite know yet.
No, we don't know that. And, if you're asking me what I prefer, I say let's put all our eggs in the football basket. That's the thing that I care about the most. Yes, it'd be great to have a nice basketball program, but I'm not losing sleep over it. Timo, I think, is going to feel the same way. I think he's going to lean more towards football. And if he can get these other sports figured out, then that's just a icing on the cake. But I think he's going to focus on what's really bringing in the money, and that's football.
Well, we'll see. We'll keep you updated. Right now, again, 3 guys on the roster. Again, that doesn't account for freshmen that are coming in. Obviously, transfer portal is open for men's basketball, but things are looking a little bleak. Women's basketball, not a whole lot being shared there either. So basketball is really kind of in an interesting spot right now. And the spring game has come to an end, Mike. That means football has a long journey ahead of itself before we're back on the field. So we are back to top 5 lists of random things that we want to talk about football-wise for the next couple of months. So join us on that journey. No guest this week. We efforted a guest, couldn't make that happen. So you just get me and Mike here for an hour and a half straight on football and basketball. But we're going to take a break now because we're tired of talking. We'll come back, though. We'll close up shop. We'll do a little cow of the week, and we'll get you on your way out of here. So Sons of UCF, thanks for listening. Don't go anywhere.
UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn. You should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair is on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, let's end these proceedings, Mike. We appreciate everyone for hanging in there and listening to us drone on about the spring game and basketball. Again, make sure you follow us on social media. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Would be much appreciated. We've got the live show coming up this week. Big guests are in the works, so make sure you stick around and you don't want to miss that, Mike. But Cow of the Week is here. We picked someone that made us laugh or something that was pretty idiotic or stupid. So I'm going to let you lead off as always. I hear you may have 2 cows to discuss. This is unique. Usually you barely have 1. This week you may have 2. I'm excited.
That's right. These things don't come around too often, so don't get used to them. Cow number 1, the USFL.
Oh, come on.
Football is back.
Oh.
Right? What is this league?
USFL.
Yeah, I know, but why? Why is this league? Why does it exist? Who's watching this?
Mm-hmm.
And not only this, but they have all these teams. They got the Tampa Bay Bandits. They got the New Jersey Generals. They got all these teams. Except here's the issue: they're all playing in Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They're all playing in the one stadium. I've never heard of such a thing. Outside of recreational softball, not even my daughter's softball league. We play in multiple parks. We play here in Fort Lauderdale. We travel to Pompano. We go, sometimes we have a game in Hollywood. This league is so Bush League that they have every team playing in the same stadium. How does that even work? They play back to back to back to back. How many teams are in the league, first of all? 8?
8.
So they play a quadruple header every Saturday afternoon in the same stadium? Are they playing 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday? What are they doing?
I don't know, actually. I think they were supposed to be 3 games on Sunday. I think so. They played one Saturday night was their big kickoff game, and then I think they had 3 Sunday. I don't know if it'd always be that way, but I believe that was how the schedule was put out.
Do we really need this much football? Is this even considered football? I know we got a couple guys, I think some former UCF players that are actually on these rosters, right? And good for them. Somebody's paying them to play football, but you cannot pay me to watch these games. Who cares? Are you sitting here? This is not like the minors where some of these guys, how many of these guys are going to actually make it back to the NFL? Maybe one, maybe a hand, maybe, less than 5, most likely. I don't understand the whole point of this league. There's so much other sports going on. Even the NFL itself is not even out of the news at this point, right? You got free agency. You got the draft coming up next week. You had the combines just recently. The NFL is always going on around the calendar. Do we need more football going on? And we got college football at the same time as the NFL. That's plenty. Now you got the NBA playoffs are just kicked off. You got the hockey playoffs about to start up in a week or two. Major League Baseball is back. I mean, why the need for these spring football leagues? I'll never understand.
It's a great question.
They don't make money.
Yeah,
nobody's making money on these things. These leagues are shutting down year after year.
Yeah, great question. I think the USFL is trying to capitalize on something unique by holding it in the same location to cut down on cost, which is, I assume, why they're doing that. Birmingham is an odd market, but I suppose if you think about, who's going to Birmingham, right? But I'm sure it's cheaper from a labor standpoint. It's got a new stadium there, so it's probably cheaper to rent that thing out. Maybe hotel accommodations are cheaper, so I imagine all that's done for cost savings. But then for what is, I guess, the question. So you save a bunch of money after year 1, you don't go broke. Well, then what do you do? I mean, to your point, how many diehard Tampa Bay Bandit fans are out there now, watching their team that's never stepped foot in the city of Tampa, which is probably similar with cows too. I don't know. I mean, I'm one that typically, if I'm home on a Sunday, a Saturday, and I'm doing something around the house, I'll flip on a TV, and if the game is on, I'll usually put something on. I did not see any. Actually, I watched the documentary that the USFL did where I saw the guy get cut for eating pizza. Other than that, I didn't actually watch a single snap of the USFL. So probably not going to make it appointment television unless there's a UCF player that I can see play or something like that. Then I may tune in, but I'm probably not going to be the target audience there.
If you're a fan from Tampa and your team is playing in a big game, you're not going to travel to Birmingham to watch it. Now, if the whole league was being played in Las Vegas, I could see, hey, guys from Tampa, guys from New York, we'll meet up in Vegas and we'll watch a game there. That's possible. But to go to Birmingham to do what? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. This league is going to fold just like all the other leagues have folded.
Wow.
If they really wanted to make any kind of money, instead of naming them after cities, the Tampa Bay Bandits, just have sponsors sponsor the team. The Coca-Cola Bandits versus the Budweiser Generals or whatever. At least then you have companies pumping money into the league and sponsoring these teams, right? Does that make a little bit more sense? You're all playing all the games in one city anyway. Right. You don't have to have a city name attached to them.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, you would think that if they want to capitalize on that there would be opportunities to do that, right? I mean, again, nobody in Tampa is dying to go to Birmingham to watch the Tampa Bay whatever Bandits play. So you would have thought there would an option to make some money there. I think this league is owned by Fox though, so I don't know what that means, if that's easier or harder, but it certainly is interesting.
This has to be some kind of front for some other kind of. This is a mafia thing.
We got funny business going on, Mike.
There's some money laundering going on. This cannot be because people actually demand more football to watch in the spring, because nobody's watching it. Nobody's going to the games and nobody's watching.
I think they had $3 million viewers. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think they did not outperform the AAF or whatever, but they still had, I guess, a respectable number, I suppose. But will it hold in a year? Who knows?
Yeah, because it's on a network television station. So those people get 3 million viewers when they put infomercials on at 12 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon too. You know, it's just some people, that's all the channels they get. I know it's hard to believe in 2022, but when it's over-the-air TV like that, I mean, you're going to get numbers. And those are not really good numbers.
Some of those infomercials are kind of entertaining, though. No?
Yeah. Set it and forget it, all those things.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, you want a second, Cal?
I want nothing more in my life than that.
So the wife and I, we went to a concert over the weekend. We went Saturday night. We went to go see Bon Jovi.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She always wanted to go see Bon Jovi. I didn't really care. I like some of his stuff. I like some of his songs. I know the hits.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have some questions here. She always wanted to see Bon Jovi. That seems like a really odd bucket list item. Okay. I'm not calling your wife out. Very nice lady, by the way. I've always wanted to see Bon Jovi. Just isn't a common phrase of somebody of her age group. Maybe a couple years older, I could see that. But I feel like she got the tail end of Bon Jovi. No.
I mean, we grew up with Bon Jovi, right? They came up in the mid-'80s, 84, 85. They were huge when we were kids,
sure.
88, 89, 90. Yeah, and then they've lasted for a while. I don't know. She says she's always wanted to see them.
Okay.
What do you want me to tell you?
That leads me to believe that you disagree with that, but I'm fine. All right, we're good. Moving on.
All right, so we got the tickets. It worked out. We had a great time at the show. Everything was good. We ate. My other cow is my Uber driver on the way there. So, you know, we're responsible adults. Actually, I had these tickets where it's unlimited food, unlimited beer, wine, all that stuff. So, you know me, I'm going to have a good time.
I know you.
And I'm not going to
Wait, so you got VIP seats? I mean, how'd you pull that off?
Actually, I ended up, check this out. So she actually won 2 free tickets on the radio, right? Right before we go on vacation, as we're on our way to the airport, she calls up the radio station, wins 2 free tickets.
Boom.
So I take those 2 free tickets. I post them on StubHub. I got a good amount of money for those 2. The night before, I had tickets to see Chris Rock, right, at the Hard Rock with another group of my cousins, my sister. Everybody was going there. She didn't really care to see Chris Rock. Plus, she didn't want to go out 2 nights in a row, babysitting, you know, all that stuff. So I sell my Chris Rock tickets before we go on vacation. I post them for almost twice as much as I bought them for. And guess what happens while I'm on vacation?
Slap.
He gets slapped by Will Smith. My thing's sold like the very next day. I made $150 profit on the 2 Chris Rock tickets. Then you combine in the 2 tickets that I sold that she won for free on Bon Jovi. I made another $300 plus on those. We ended up getting these 2 tickets that we used. And my other cousin came with his girlfriend too, so 4 of us. I broke even. I saw Bon Jovi for free, and I had all you can eat, all you could drink. Even covered my Ubers, basically.
Are you a ticket scalper now? What the hell are you doing?
Dude, I have many years of experience doing this with my UCF season tickets.
Sure,
I've sold many times. So the complaint is not with that. The concert was fine, even though, you know, he held out on a couple songs he could have played. He held out a few hits on us. There was a stretch there where I didn't know about 8 songs in a row. But okay, so the Uber driver, Uber driver on the way there, right? Picks us up as soon as we get in the car. Well, he has the windows cracked open. I said, what is going on here? And it's hot. My wife said, boy, it's hot in here. I'm like, yeah, can you put the AC on a little bit? You know, crank that up. He puts it on a little bit, and then she kind of looks over at me. We're putting our hand by the vent to see if anything's actually coming out. Well, hey, you mind cranking it up a little bit more? It's kind of hot back here. And he's fighting with me to put the AC on. He finally does. Then we're on our way there. And I see him getting off I-95 before he even gets to 595. And that's the way to the arena. You got to take 595 all the way west. That's the fastest way. He was about to get off on Oakland and take the streets all the way there. Red light after red light after red. I said, oh, stay on the highway, take 595. He gets into this whole thing of, oh, I have to go 5 extra miles if I do it this way. I was like, yeah, but you're saving 20 minutes. You know? He goes, yeah. It said 35 minutes. Now it says 20 minutes. I said, yeah, exactly. But it's an extra 5 miles. I was like, dude, I don't care how much further you have to go. Get me to the show and get me there the fastest way possible. So this guy's pinching pennies. I'm sure the gas prices aren't, doing him any favors. But if you're going to be an Uber driver, you got to know make the customer happy, make it a comfortable ride, and get me there as fast as possible, safely, right? This guy wanted to go the scenic route. And his plan was to take me down Oakland Park Boulevard, stop at every red light, and have the windows cracked open. He's a cow of the week just for that. He needs to get out of the Uber business if he cannot handle it.
Wow. Jeez. Yeah, that sounds like a rough experience. What was the tip situation?
I mean, I told him I was going to tip him good if he put the AC on and took the highway. So, I still have the option to add a tip if I want. But I haven't done so.
I don't know when you turned into a ticket scalper. I just don't know where I was. You're like George Costanza. You're like, I'm a bootlegger now. Like, I don't know when I turned around and you went from, full-time job, family man, podcast host to ticket scalper. I don't know where I was.
My ticket selling abilities are unparalleled. Our friend Ricky, who shares my season tickets with me, we've done this now going back to the opening of the stadium, 2007, really. Actually, probably the year before that. I've been in charge of our 4 tickets. He doesn't even ask me any questions. He just says, here, these are the games I can go to. These are the ones I can't. Do your magic. By the time I sell the parking passes and the tickets and all that stuff, we basically break even all the time. And we get to go to a couple games a year. It's a little side gig I got going on. If I had more money to invest in something, if I knew Chris Rock was going to get slapped in the face, I would have bought 10 tickets. I would have made a killing on those. But sometimes you can't predict the future. Wow.
I don't even know if I can. I feel just embarrassed that my count of the week is nowhere near as exciting as Tales of Mike's Uber driver. I will be staying in a Microtel hotel in Tampa this weekend, so I may have some updates for you there. So my daughter's a soccer tournament. We got in at the last minute. It's in Tampa, a place I hate to go to, by the way. And the only hotel available is a Microtel. You ever stayed in a Microtel, Mike? Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
Great question. I will let you know how the accommodations are in the Microtel hotel. I only had one cat of the week, Mike. And
what does that mean? What does that mean? You got a mini room or something?
No, it's great. I hope not. No, the picture seemed like it was a real room. It's like a chain of hotels. It's a brand name.
Oh, that's the name of the hotel.
That's the name of the hotel. Yeah, it's not. It's by Wyndham.
It sounds like something I created. The Hotel.
No, it feels like a tiny hotel. No, it's supposed to be like a real hotel. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you telling me that's the only hotel in the city of Tampa? No, that can't be.
Well, we're close to the tournament. That's the problem. Like we could stay in like the city of Tampa. I guess it's it's in the suburbs. We could stay in the city, but we're like an hour and 20 minutes away from the field. So. And they want all the girls to stay at the same hotel, camaraderie, all that stuff. So I will report back on that. That could be Cal Week material. So this is not a political comment. This is more just this guy's an asshole comment. Remember our good friend Randy Fine?
Sure.
He's got himself embroiled in something else now. He's the Disney thing. I don't know the whole specifics, but he was at a meeting where he was kind of laying out his proposals, and he decided to. He went through a long list of companies and universities who have quote unquote messed with him, which he's clearly talking about UCF. So this guy is still out here being annoying to UCF, now taking victory laps for whatever it is that he thinks he may or may have done to kill our relative naming rights deal. So we haven't had a Randy Fine Cal Week in a while, so I thought I'd bring Randy Fine back because now he's talking about companies and universities who have messed with him and how they've, how he's made them pay is the way he phrased it. So Randy, welcome back to Cal of the Week. We've missed you.
This guy is just a jackass. But I get his elections coming up anytime. Maybe he's just trying to get his name back in the news. I don't know. But he's just an ass.
I don't know if midterm. I don't know if midterms are coming up this year. I mean, he may be up for mid. I don't really keep track on that race particularly. I'm not in that county, and I have no reason to keep track of anything Randy Fine does. But I'm sure it's just his usual, jackassery.
Right. And I think we've, maybe in the last election, the UCF fan base that lives in that region should just vote for whoever the other guy is, right? And I think,
I think you're right. I think he got reelected in 2020. So yeah, I think he's there for another, 6, 10, 30 years. There's no term limits there. I think he'll be fine. He's there forever. So Randy Fine, welcome to my Cal of the Week, Mike, and that's a show. That's a show. That'll be a show, and we're good for today. Spring game recap. Obviously, we went kind of long on that, so we appreciate you letting us talk your ear off on spring game stuff. Again, football. Whoa, you got more?
Well, something we didn't go over. I mean, we went over a lot of the stuff, the game and experience and all that stuff. But there was another part of the day there, and we had some questions that we left unanswered. What happened after the game? Did we go to softball? Did we go to baseball? Did Elo set you up behind? Did you get free food in left field, right field, whatever it was?
It was left field. We went down near the softball complex. It was pretty sort of crowded in that area. There wasn't a whole lot of seating potential available at that point. The wife was like, "Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom," so we didn't stay there very long, and we ended up doing neither.
Wait, so when you got to left field, did you say?
No, I did not. We kind of surveyed. I was going to go to baseball. They were getting hammered at that time. They were down like 12-0. So I was like, I'm not even going to bother going by the baseball because that was my first choice. It's closer. We were right there. And I was like, hey, let's just walk over the baseball. And I was like, oh, 12-0. We'll see you later. So then I was like, let's walk towards softball. We got towards the lot there. Our car was in a whole other direction. I could already tell the family was a little bit annoyed with me dragging them there. So we hung out there for a few. And the consensus from everybody else was let's get the heck out of here. So that's what we did. So neither is, I guess, the correct answer. I really want to go to baseball though, but they were getting pummeled by ECU.
Well, baseball survived this episode of us not destroying them because they got destroyed by East Carolina 3 games in a row and gave up 32 runs over 3 games. So
yeah.
Not looking good there.
Stephen Branca may have needed me in the booth for comic relief at that point because I don't know what else positive they were saying. So he may have needed me for some jokes up there.
Yeah. I can only imagine what it was like by Saturday afternoon on the third game of another beating.
And the bright side, we lost again tonight to Jacksonville. So.
Wow. So the wheels are really coming off here. As the season goes,
9-2, 9-2 loss.
Wow. What's going on with the pitching there? That's about 40 runs in the last 4 games, and not much offense either. So, seems like another total collapse here once we get into conference play, which seems to be a pattern now with the baseball team.
Yeah. Things are not looking fantastic. I think we have Stephen Branca tentatively on the schedule this week, Mike, so we can ask him on the live show, which comes Thursday. Again, working on another big-name guest that we think will be able to join us. So we will update that. Also, breaking news, Alex Freeland out for the year with a wrist injury. So Alex Freeland no longer playing. So there's more blows for the baseball team. But anyway.
It's tennis season.
Yeah, is it tennis season? Is it still going on? Actually, we're pretty good. Yeah. Let's get Roddick on the show. Right? Yeah. Let's get Roddick on.
Yeah, baseball season's over, folks.
All right. Well, it's over, and this show is over. Yeah, and we are all set. So Thursday live show. Don't miss it. Mike, Trace, and I will do whatever we can to entertain you and share more stuff about UCF sports. Until then, everybody have a fantastic week, and we'll talk to you soon. Everybody go Knights.
Charge on.